Have you ever wondered why some people seem unshaken by chaos, while others crumble under the slightest pressure? Why do some rise when everything falls apart, while others are buried by their own emotions? Is mental strength something you're born with, or something you can build brick by brick? If you've asked yourself these questions, you're in the right place. Because today, we're going deep into the Stoic path, not as a philosophy, but as a discipline. A way to forge an unbreakable mind in a world that constantly tries to break you. If you're ready to train your mind like a warrior, subscribe. Turn on notifications, and let's build your resilience from the ground up. 1. Endurance begins with purpose. Every storm feels meaningless until you find your why. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, live according to nature, serve others, uphold virtue. Without a sense of direction, pain becomes chaos. But the moment you attach meaning to hardship, when it becomes a test, a forge, a path you step out of helplessness and into agency. Marcus Aurelius wasn't writing in peace. He was at war literally and mentally. Yet his meditations weren't cries of despair. They were affirmations of purpose. He kept anchoring himself in something deeper. Virtue, duty, the natural order. When storms come and everything around you dissolves into uncertainty, that's when your why becomes your sail. It's the narrative that gives pain a point and turns suffering into sacrifice. Why do you wake up? Why do you endure? Without that clarity, every setback feels like punishment. With it, every blow becomes training. That shift in perception Stoicism teaches is everything. When you have a vision, when you know why you're enduring pain, it stops being suffering and becomes preparation. A soldier trains with the knowledge that the battlefield lies ahead. The soreness, the bruises, the exhaustion, they're not obstacles, they're steps. Likewise, life's trials become manageable when you view them as part of your preparation for something greater. Viktor Frankl, though not a Stoic, echoed this profoundly. Suffering ceases to be suffering when it finds meaning. That's the exact pivot Stoicism encouraged, reframing your pain not as punishment, but as sculpting. You're not being broken, you're being built. And what are you being built for? Only your purpose can answer that. That's why you need it before the storm, not after. Life's chaos doesn't derail the person who's anchored in purpose. The clearer your vision, the more focused your actions. And in the face of adversity, focus is everything. Purpose clears the fog. Without it, we react emotionally, impulsively, destructively. With it, we become surgical. Imagine a ship tossed at sea. The winds, the waves, the currents, they're all threats. But the captain with a destination doesn't panic. He recalibrates. His compass doesn't change with the weather. That's how purpose works in us. When adversity hits, we don't get to control the situation, but we do get to control our interpretation of it. That interpretation, the story we tell ourselves, is guided by our purpose. And when that purpose is rooted in virtue, service, and truth, we become immovable, no matter how much the external world shifts. Don't just survive hardships, use them. Ask, what is this teaching me? What am I being prepared for? This is the Stoic practice of turning obstacles into opportunities. Marcus called it the obstacle that becomes the way. A failure can humiliate you, or it can humble you. A betrayal can harden you, or it can clarify who your true allies are. A loss can paralyze you, or it can awaken you to what truly matters. That shift happens the moment you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I make of this? Endurance without reflection leads to numbness. But endurance with intention leads to growth. You don't just get through the fire, you emerge from it forged. Purpose isn't a motivational poster, it's your compass in the dark. Without it, you drift. With it, you endure. Too often we reduce purpose to slogans or hashtags. But true purpose is lived, not declared. It's shown in the choices you make when no one's watching. It's what keeps you moving when giving up would be easier. It's what keeps you moral when compromise would be profitable. Purpose doesn't eliminate pain, but it illuminates it. And in that light, you can endure anything. The Stoics didn't seek comfort. They sought clarity. And purpose, when sincerely chosen and deeply held, is the clearest thing there is. 2. Build your inner fortress. The world is unpredictable. But inside you, that's your territory. That's your citadel. There's only one space in the universe you can truly govern: your own mind. The Stoics drew a hard line between what's within your control and what isn't. This line, once drawn clearly, is liberating. Outside forces, politics, illness, betrayal, loss may batter your body and your circumstances, but they don't have to reach your core. That's your fortress. But like any stronghold, it needs construction, reinforcement, and maintenance. You don't inherit this inner strength, you build it. And you build it precisely because the outer world is so chaotic. If you wait for peace to feel peace, you'll never know it. But if you can cultivate stability inside yourself, even the worst storm becomes survivable. Stoics believed in building a mind so fortified, nothing external could shatter it. How? By stripping away dependence. Dependence creates vulnerability, not emotional, but existential. If your peace depends on people liking you, money flowing in, or circumstances staying pleasant, then you're not free. You're leased to luck. The Stoics sought liberation by reducing their psychological dependencies. They trained themselves to be indifferent to wealth, status, and comfort, not because they despised these things, but because they didn't want to be owned by them. This mindset doesn't create cold detachment. It creates resilience. The less you need, the more power you reclaim over your reactions. And once you learn that true security comes from within, the outer world loses its grip on your emotions. They practiced discomfort, fasting, cold, silence, not to suffer, but to prove they didn't need luxury to be strong. This wasn't masochism, it was mental training. Seneca fasted regularly, not because he couldn't afford to eat, but because he wanted to prove to himself that hunger wouldn't destroy him. This is voluntary hardship, a core Stoic practice. When you voluntarily expose yourself to small forms of discomfort, you inoculate your mind against fear. You teach yourself, in real time, that comfort isn't necessary for dignity. Modern life insulates us from nearly every inconvenience, but that insulation weakens us. Practicing discomfort teaches us not only endurance, but detachment, the ability to hold on to our identity and peace, no matter what we lack. Every time you resist a temptation, every time you say no to ease, you lay another brick in your inner fortress. Discipline is cumulative. It's not about dramatic acts of willpower, it's about small, consistent choices. Skipping the easy way out, holding your tongue when angry, showing up when you'd rather rest. Each of these moments, insignificant, alone, builds an architecture within you. You become someone you can trust. And that self-trust, knowing that you'll do what's right, not what's easy, is the core of the inner fortress. You can't fake it. You earn it over time. And when the world collapses, you'll know you won't collapse with it, because you've trained for this. When chaos hits, and it will, it's not strength you'll find. It's stability, because you've built it, deliberately, over time. Strength often implies force, but stability, that's deeper. It's the quiet assurance that you won't be broken by what happens outside of you. That calm in the middle of the storm isn't accidental. It's built through thousands of unseen choices. The Stoics weren't superhuman. They simply understood what they could control and trained themselves to master it. Your inner fortress doesn't make you emotionless, but it makes you unshakable. And in a world that constantly shifts, that kind of groundedness is power. Don't seek escape. Seek self-reliance. True freedom is knowing you can face anything and remain unmoved. Running from discomfort only deepens your dependence on comfort. But running toward it, intentionally, wisely teaches you mastery. Self-reliance isn't selfishness. It's the foundation of service. When you don't depend on others for validation, comfort, or peace, you become someone who can offer those things. You're no longer reactive, you're responsive. And that's the Stoic ideal. Not a monk hiding from the world, but a warrior in the world who cannot be shaken by it. That's what the inner fortress is for. Not retreat but power. Not walls but wisdom. 3. Accept reality. Respond with power. Suffering often doesn't come from the event. It comes from our refusal to accept it. It's not the breakup, the layoff, the betrayal, or the diagnosis that truly destroys us. It's the mental story. We build around it. We say, this shouldn't have happened, or worse, why me? But the world doesn't operate according to our internal scripts. Pain is real, yes, but suffering that sustains soul-grinding anguish often emerges from our denial, our insistence that reality should be different. This resistance ties us in emotional knots, blinding us from clarity, robbing us of our next best move. We expect things to go our way. We expect fairness. We expect comfort. And when reality doesn't match those expectations, we resist. We panic. We try to control outcomes, manipulate people, or retreat into fantasy. The truth is, life doesn't care about our preferences. The child expects the world to be kind, predictable, and tailored to their wants. The adult accepts that it isn't and adapts. Expectation is a hidden contract we've written with the world, one it never agreed to sign. And so when that contract is broken, when life doesn't follow our imagined terms, we feel betrayed. But that betrayal is of our own making. But the Stoics saw clearly, the universe owes us nothing. Nature unfolds how it must, not how we want. The rains come whether we've planned a wedding or a war. Death takes the young and the old. People will lie, fail, and abandon, not because they are out to get us, but because they too are human, imperfect, and lost in their own storms. The Stoics didn't preach nihilism, but realism. When you stop expecting the world to cater to your script, you stop being disappointed by it, and you start responding to it with strength. Accept reality not as defeat, but as data. Now you can act. Now you can move forward. Think of reality as the battlefield report. Denial means walking blind into ambush. Acceptance means adjusting strategy. This happened is not surrender, it's intel. The more honest your appraisal of the situation, the more precise your response can be. What we face might be unfair, but what we do next, that's ours. And the moment you drop the illusion that things should be different, you gain clarity. And with clarity comes power. Clarity is a weapon. When you stop wasting energy resisting what's outside your control, you reclaim that energy for what matters, your next move. We burn so many mental calories asking why instead of what now. The Stoic doesn't waste that fire. They channel it. When reality strikes, whether in love, business, or war, they don't scream at the wind. They adjust the sails. Power comes not from control, but from focus. And clarity gives you that focus. Acceptance isn't passive. It's power. It's how warriors think. You're not folding, you're positioning. You're not resigning, you're responding. The warrior doesn't deny the presence of the storm. They see it, they acknowledge it, and then they move through it with poise and precision. Real strength is the ability to look hardship in the eye and say, I see you, and I'm ready. That starts with reality, not a fantasy, not a wish. Reality. 4. Master what you can. Release what you can't. You control your thoughts, your actions, your effort. That's it. The core of Stoic philosophy is radical ownership, not of outcomes, but of intent and response. The world is noisy, chaotic, and uncontrollable. But within that chaos, there is one place of absolute control: your inner world. What you say, how you think, how you choose to behave when no one's watching. That's your kingdom. Everything else, fortune, fame, even health to some extent, is fragile, conditional, external. But your will? That's yours. Always. Everything else, people's opinions, random events, outcomes, is outside your reach. The sooner you grasp that, the freer you become. Most people exhaust themselves trying to manage impressions, predict the future, or chase validation. But the Stoic understands that's a rigged game. You cannot force someone to love you, respect you, or even understand you. You cannot guarantee that your work will be rewarded or your kindness returned. But you can still choose integrity. You can still choose effort. And that choice, that sovereignty, is the root of peace. Every second you spend fighting what you can't control, you weaken your mind. Every second you spend mastering your response, you sharpen it. Energy is a finite resource. Spend it in worry, complaint, or blame, and you drain your reserves. But use that same energy to self-regulate, to prepare, to reflect, and you grow. This shift is not just philosophical. It's practical. You become more stable, more adaptive, and more influential, not by controlling more, but by needing less. By becoming unshakable within. This isn't detachment. It's clarity. You still care, but you stop chasing shadows and start moving with purpose. A Stoic is not indifferent to life. They are disciplined in their attention. You can love someone deeply without trying to possess them. You can aim high without being crushed by setbacks. This balance is powerful. You're not disconnected. You're focused. You're not apathetic. You're strategic. You're done wasting time on what you cannot change, and you're all in on what you can. Resilience is not about feeling nothing. It's about focusing on what's yours to shape and letting go of what isn't. Emotions still come. Fear still knocks. But you don't serve those emotions. You notice them, accept them, and return to your task. The Stoic doesn't try to suppress reality. They anchor themselves within it. And when loss, betrayal, or crisis hits, they grieve, yes. But they also ask, what's still in my control? What can I do next? This is how power is reclaimed, one deliberate choice at a time. 5. Prepare in peace, so you don't break in war. Discipline isn't built in chaos. It's revealed by it. When the storm comes, it's too late to start training. The soldier doesn't sharpen their sword mid-battle. They prepare long before. The Stoics understood this deeply, that virtue, discipline, and strength are cultivated in the quiet moments, in your routines, in your habits, in the mundane decisions that seem to matter little but shape everything. If you wait for a crisis to build character, you'll be crushed by the weight of it. But if you build character now, calmly, patiently, you'll stand when others fall. If you want to be unshakable in hard times, train during the quiet ones. Start by asking yourself, who am I becoming through my daily actions? Am I practicing patience when it's easy, so I'll have it when it's hard? Am I resisting the small temptations, so I'll resist the bigger ones? People think growth comes from huge leaps, but the Stoics knew it comes from the repetition of small, disciplined acts. If you're waiting for a real challenge to become stronger, you've misunderstood. Your entire life is training. The Stoics practice reflection every morning, asking, what challenges might I face today? How will I respond? This wasn't pessimism, it was mental readiness. Seneca spoke of rehearsing misfortunes. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journals each dawn, preparing for insult, hardship, and disorder. Why? Because expectation kills panic. If you expect life to be difficult, you won't be blindsided when it is. You'll be grounded, ready, and from that readiness comes resilience. They practice discomfort on purpose, small acts that train their minds for bigger trials. Fasting, cold baths, sleeping on the floor, wearing simple clothes. These weren't acts of masochism, but mental preparation. If you face small, voluntary discomforts, you know that you can face involuntary ones too. You build confidence, not in comfort, but in your capacity to endure. And when pain comes for real, you greet it like an old sparring partner, not a monster you've never met. You don't need a battlefield to become strong. Strength is in the choices you make when no one is watching. When you say no to distractions. When you get up without applause. When you practice restraint, patience, and courage in quiet moments. This invisible training is what shows up in visible trials. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. So build that level higher, privately, daily, relentlessly. Say no to what weakens you. Say yes to what builds you, even if it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Strength doesn't come from comfort. It comes from choosing growth over ease. Every time you choose what strengthens you, even in a small way, you prepare. You harden the mind. You ready the spirit. And when the time comes to endure, to lead, to protect, to act, you won't be found lacking. When the storm comes, you won't have to fake strength. You'll already be strong because you trained for this, because you didn't waste the quiet times, because you turned ordinary days into opportunities for growth. This is what Stoicism is about. Not just surviving hardship, but being shaped by it. Not just reacting in crisis, but being forged beforehand. You won't crumble. You won't break. You'll stand. The world tells you to chase comfort, but comfort never made anyone strong. Strength comes from choosing the harder path, from telling the truth when a lie would be easier, from facing what scares you instead of hiding behind distractions. Every time you do what's right instead of what's easy, you tell your mind, I can count on you. And over time, that voice becomes unshakable. You don't need perfect conditions to build resilience. You need a reason, a plan, and the courage to train your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join others who are done running from life and ready to master it. Because resilience isn't about being invincible. It's about being prepared, and your training starts now.